Bobby Fischer, the proud chess genius, the lone rebel who challenged the world. In a world ruled by quiet moves and silent calculation, Bobby Fischer was a storm. A boy who taught himself chess in solitude rose to become a living legend, toppling the Soviet chess empire with nothing but his mind. More than a world champion, he was a symbol of genius and defiance, of divine brilliance wrapped in the shadows of a tormented soul. His life was a game played beyond rules, a path only the truly gifted dared walk, while the whole world could only watch in awe. Bob Fischer, the lone genius of the century. Robert James Fischer, was not merely a chess player, he was a legend, a symbol that transcended the 64 squares of the board and a living paradox of blazing genius and profound solitude. Quiet, but never silent. Born in Chicago and raised on the quiet streets of Brooklyn, Bobby Fischer taught himself chess at the age of 6. Armed with nothing but books, a battered board, and a mind consumed by curiosity. With no coach, no mentor, and no team, he became the youngest grandmaster in history at 15. But that was just the beginning of a solitary journey that would shake the chess world to its core. The peak, defeating an empire with intellect. In 1972, amid the tension of the Cold War, Fischer stood as America's lone warrior against Boris Spassky of the Soviet Union, whose country had long dominated the game. In Reykjavik, Iceland, Fischer didn't just win, he toppled an empire. No one believed a lone individual could conquer an entire system. But Fischer did, armed only with intellect, resolve, and near superhuman preparation. That victory turned him into a global legend. And then, he disappeared. The fall, when genius drifts into darkness. Fischer refused to defend his title in 1975 due to disputes with FIDE and soon withdrew from public life. In his years of exile, he made controversial statements denouncing America and Judaism and became a fugitive after violating sanctions by playing a rematch in Yugoslavia in 1992. In the end, it was Iceland, the land of his greatest triumph, that offered him peace. He was granted citizenship, and it became his final refuge. Legacy, a star that burned bright, then vanished. Fischer died quietly in 2008, but the fire he lit continues to burn in the hearts of chess lovers worldwide. He didn't just revolutionize the game, he reminded the world that intellect, even when alone, can shake the heavens. Fischer didn't just play chess. He was chess, a reminder that genius can be lonely, but still move the world. Regina Wender, the mother who never bowed. Born in Mönchengladbach, amid the cold winds of Switzerland, Regina carried the blood of Polish-Jewish resilience. Brilliant, brave, and unbreakable. She was not just a mother. She was a doctor, a nurse, an activist, and above all, a quiet warrior standing firm against a turbulent world. Raising 2 children alone in hardship, she never complained. She didn't play chess. But when she saw Bobby immersed in the black and white battlefield, she stood behind him. Not loudly, but like a wall that never cracked. She wrote to governments, pleaded for scholarships, not out of naivety, but out of belief. A belief that genius must be protected, even if it walks the world utterly alone. Paul Nemeni, the father beyond the light. Paul was never officially named Bobby's father. On paper, he did not exist. But from the shadows, he left behind something far deeper, a drop of brilliant blood flowing through the veins of a future legend. A Hungarian Jewish physicist studying invisible currents, perhaps he too once glimpsed something extraordinary in the eyes of a child he could never truly raise. He sent money. He visited once, then disappeared, like a shooting star that passed through destiny's sky, leaving behind a light that had no name. Joan Fischer, the sister who planted the seed. Born in 1938, Joan was the one who first taught Bobby how to play chess, reading aloud from a cheap instruction booklet. They were once close, but as often happens with brilliance, reality, belief, and fate pulled them apart. Some bonds never break, but they never return to what they once were. Miyoko Watai, the woman who stayed at the end. Miyoko, a Japanese woman international master, met Fischer in the 1970s. When the world turned its back on him, she stayed. She cared for him in exile, in sickness, in silence. And when he closed his eyes for the last time, she declared they had been husband and wife, not needing the world's approval, just their own hearts. One bloodline, four quiet pieces, one genius, one vanishing light. Bobby's family never made noise. They weren't stars in the sky. But in their quiet struggles, their aching imperfections, they became the roots from which a solitary star rose and burned, alone and brilliant, across the world's darkest sky. He was a final note. He was not made for the world. The world was too loud, too rigid, too blind to hold a soul like his. Bobby Fischer wasn't just a man who played chess. He was a storm wearing the mask of silence. A flame wrapped in winter, a genius carved from solitude and fire. He stood alone against empires. He defied rules, tore down patterns, and rewrote the game, not just on the board, but in the very fabric of history. And when the world tried to crown him, he turned away. Not out of arrogance, but because some stars are too wild to stay in orbit. Fischer vanished the same way he lived, on his own terms, leaving behind not just victories, but questions, echoes, legends. In the end, he didn't belong to any country, any system, or even any time. He belonged to the silence between moves, to that sacred space where genius breathes alone. If there's a famous person you'd like us to cover, drop their name in the comments so we can explore their story together.